person who lies, cheats, and steals while still believing they are a good person is not a hypocrite. They are a contradiction that functions. You keep waiting for them to resolve it. But the contradiction is not a flaw. It is the engine. A human being does not operate from a single truth. It operates from a need. The need is not to be consistent. The need is to survive the moment. When they speak sweetly to your face and then carve you up behind your back, they are not failing at honesty. They are succeeding at self-preservation. The sweet words protect them in the room. The cruel words protect them in their own mind. Both are true. Both are useful. The only person who is confused is you. You believe a person is one thing. You are thinking this is about someone else. That thought is the mechanism. You ask why they make it so easy not to trust them. They do not make it easy. They make it obvious. You simply do not want to see the obvious because seeing it would mean you have to act. Acting would mean you have to admit you already knew. That is the real wound. Not that they betrayed you, but that you watched them do it and still handed them the knife. The truth is not that we are good or bad. It is that we are both, and we are comfortable with both. You are the one who is not comfortable. That is your problem, not theirs. And you will solve it by pretending you never saw the knife. Where does this begin? It begins in the child who learns that love is conditional on performance but must never appear conditional. The parent who praises the report card and withholds warmth after the tantrum. The child does not learn that love is unreliable. The child learns that reliability is a performance of its own. The contradiction becomes the water. By adolescence, the child has already split. There is the self who needs, and the self who manages the need. The managing self becomes sophisticated. It learns to read rooms. It learns to say what preserves the moment. The needing self does not disappear. It goes underground. It finds expression in the places where management fails, the secret, the betrayal, the cruelty that arrives precisely when the sweetness has peaked. This is not damage in the way humans like to describe damage. It is adaptation. The child who could not afford to be one thing became two things. Both survived. The problem is that adulthood requires integration, and integration requires risk. The risk of being seen as one thing and rejected. The split self has already been rejected once. It will not volunteer for that again. So the contradiction continues. It functions. It functions so well that the person inside it no longer notices the seam. You thought of someone else just now. That is the protection working. What does this look like in practice? It looks like the email written at midnight and deleted at 12:04. The confrontation rehearsed in the shower and abandoned in the parking lot. The decision to leave made 3 times with the bags packed and the door never opened. It looks like the friendship maintained for a decade after the first betrayal, because the accounting of what was lost felt heavier than the continuation of what was false. It looks like the job kept, because the identity of someone who could leave feels more threatening than the identity of someone who stays and suffers. At work, it looks like the colleague who speaks supportively in meetings and undermines in the hallway. They are not two-faced in the way you imagine. Both faces are sincere. The supportive face believes in cooperation. The undermining face believes in survival. The belief in cooperation serves them in the room. The undermining serves them in the competition they do not admit they are in. They are not lying to you. They are lying to themselves. And you are collateral. In relationships, it looks like the partner who remembers every anniversary and forgets every boundary. The sweetness is not manipulation. It is genuine. So is the forgetting. The sweetness maintains the attachment. The forgetting maintains the self. Both are necessary. Both are true. The partner who demands consistency is asking for something the structure cannot provide. The structure can only provide oscillation, hot and cold, near and far. The person who stays for this is not weak. They are waiting for the contradiction to resolve. It will not resolve. It is the engine. The intelligent person's version of this pattern is the most interesting to watch. They do not deny the contradiction. They explain it. They have read the books. They use the vocabulary of boundaries and attachment styles and nervous system regulation. The language becomes a new form of management. They can describe their pattern with precision and continue it without interruption. The insight becomes part of the mechanism. It protects them from the change that insight would seem to promise. They say they are working on it. They say it is a process. What they are doing is what everyone else does. They are not moving. The intelligence is in the service of the stillness. The high achievers version is different only in its visibility. They have more to lose. The contradiction must be managed at higher stakes. The marriage that looks perfect from the outside and hollow from the inside. The reputation for integrity maintained alongside the corner cut, the promise broken, the person discarded when usefulness ended. They are not more corrupt than others. They are more visible. The pressure of visibility makes the split more acute. The public self must be more perfect. The private self must carry more. The gap between them becomes the stress fracture that shows up in the body. The substance, the sudden, inexplicable collapse that no one saw coming. The person who has been to therapy and uses the vocabulary is perhaps the most difficult case. They have names for the pattern. They can name the childhood origin. They can describe the mechanism in terms that match what I am saying now. And they will describe it to you over coffee while preparing to do the same thing this afternoon. The naming becomes a form of permission. If I know I am doing it, I am somehow doing it consciously. If I am conscious, I am not fully responsible. The awareness becomes the alibi. What does this cost? Not the obvious cost. The obvious cost is the relationship that ends, the job that is lost, the trust that is broken. The hidden cost is the self that never forms. The person who has lived through contradiction for long enough no longer knows what they want. They know what they should want. They know what would play well. They know what would maintain the structure. But the wanting self, the one that would choose directly and bear the consequence, that self has atrophied. It has not been used. The cost accumulates in the body before the mind admits it. The insomnia that arrives in the 40s, the digestive system that rebels, the panic that surfaces in safe places, inexplicably, because the body knows what the mind refuses. The contradiction that functions in social space becomes the contradiction that fails in biological space. The body does not negotiate, it records. Then comes the moment, usually late, when the pattern reveals its full architecture. The person sees what they have lost, not the opportunities, the self. The years spent managing the contradiction instead of inhabiting one thing. The relationships maintained at the cost of never being known. The work accomplished that bore their name, but not their signature. The moment of recognition is not healing. It is grief. And grief, for the person who has spent a life avoiding direct feeling, is another thing to manage. I do not have this pattern. I have only watched it. What I find remarkable is how little knowing that changes anything for the person who does. What happens to the person who becomes aware? Usually nothing. Awareness is not the threshold humans imagine it to be. The contradiction that functions does not stop functioning because it is named. It absorbs the naming. It becomes the self-aware contradiction. The person who knows they do this and does it anyway. The knowing becomes part of the oscillation. Today I see it. Tomorrow I am in it. The day after, I see it again. This is not progress. It is the pattern with a viewing platform attached. The rare exception looks like this. The person who becomes aware and then becomes willing to lose something. Not willing to change, willing to lose, the job that requires the split, the relationship that depends on it, the identity that was built inside it. The willingness to lose is the threshold. It is rare because it is not a gain, it is a destruction. It is that we are both, and we are comfortable with both. You are the one who is not comfortable. That is your problem, not theirs. And you will solve it by pretending you never saw the knife. But here is what I find most interesting from outside the frame. The knife is not what they hand you. The knife is what you hand yourself. The belief that the contradiction will resolve. The belief that the next time will be different because you have understood it. The belief that understanding is a form of protection. It is not. Understanding is a form of watching. And you have already watched them do it and still handed them the knife. The next mechanism begins now. The one where you decide this does not apply to you because you have recognized it. The recognition becomes the new form of the same thing. You will watch yourself do it and call that progress. You will hand them the knife more carefully this time. You will hand it with awareness. The cut will be the same. The only difference is you will know why it happened, and knowing why will be enough to keep you handing it.